because you just totally described one of our key points, and it's breakthrough versus healing.
Yeah.
Healing is associated with this long, drawn-out process of dredging shit up and going, oh, can I cuss?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can.
Okay. Yeah, because I do that sometimes.
Just let out a few F-bombs just to start.
There's no filter on these podcasts. I just want it to be real.
I have a filter right here.
Right. We have a mic filter.
That's good enough.
Because we spit a lot, we have to have that. Otherwise, the mic would be shorted out. So
the pop filter is as far as we're gonna get. So that's it.
Okay. It's so profound because a breakthrough is a paradigm shift. It's when your core root belief is able to shift and suddenly you see the world in a new light and things that were never possible suddenly become possible. When you have that breakthrough at your core roots, and we'll get to that, it makes the healing so much easier. We just do it in the wrong order. We try to go through the healing to get to the breakthrough. Instead, we just need to go straight to the breakthrough and then come back to the healing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I think that's what I've done in my journey, but yeah, that's later. But you guys, so I pressed record because she was dropping enough bombs here that I just had to start. We just couldn't wait anymore. So I pressed record before even introducing her because it was that important. This is the first time I've ever had a power couple on here. So I'm so excited because both of you guys have an incredible story. So Jes and Reid Richardson, the super powered couple. And so I'm going to let her continue because you have to go to her. You need to go to medium.com and you need to read her story, How I Buried My Parents and Learned to Love Myself, because I'm reading it and I'm like, holy shit, we need to be friends. And I've learned so much for her in this 8-minute read that my brain and my heart are just like all over the place. So yes, Jes and Reid, keep going. This is amazing.
I adore you. I thank you so much for this. And whenever we're about to do a show, we do a lot of prep. Like 15 minutes. That's like a ton. Because
that's a ton for us.
We have 5 kids and we work from home and it's wild. And we've been homeschooling for 10 years. And it's really more like life school. Like we do everything in life different. But we just started listening. I was like, okay, Reid, we need to go listen to her and we need to just like hear some story because we love people. That has been one of our universal patterns, is that we've always just, from our earliest childhoods, like sought to understand people. Yeah. And as I was listening to your story, and I've gone through a 20-year journey of learning how to love myself, forgive myself, be kind to myself. Those real basic, but yet really hard to get to things. Yeah. In that journey, I've studied a lot of demographics of people. And while I don't have personal military experience, my dad was in the military, so I saw the after effects from him. And then I had a few close friends that started me on the journey to really understanding complex PTSD and the effects of really severe trauma. And there have been 2 demographics that have helped me help survivors of domestic trafficking, of really severe trauma. And it was people who experienced combat, veterans, and people with eating disorders. And when I took those 2 demographics of things that were working, just pulled the best of the best ideas and concepts out, it gave me the tools to be able to give people with the worst experiences these amazing breakthroughs. And the key is that they have to do it. It's their power. We just teach tools, but what we teach is self-healing, because we have to own the power and strength of who we are as individuals. We get to be friends in the process. But, and that's like a cool perk, because you know what? Life is a really long time. Yeah. And there's going to be times when you grow And suddenly you stand up to someone and they say mean things, and you need community to fall back on.
Yeah.
You need that support for that long journey of life. And so over the last 20 years, we've developed amazing techniques and tools, but it all came down to one story, really. I will, in 30 seconds, give you my childhood. My parents wanted me. They loved me. They weren't aware when 3 neighbor boys started raping me when I was 4 and 5 years old. When we moved, I didn't even really know it was wrong. Like, it was just something that happened because I was a little girl. We moved away. My dad was murdered when I was 10 years old. It was a homicide-suicide. It was a 17-year-old young man who killed him and then killed himself. And then I started running away. I ended up being raped into gangs, into Crips, actually. I'm white, so I could never wear colors above my shoulder, like, your role, that kind of shit. Ended up seeing a number of people die. And so I got away very quickly and ended up being wooed by a pimp who just told me all the right things. He was the one person who ever really stopped and listened to me really intentionally, and then sought to fix my problems, and then sought to exploit me, and did. And for the next 14 to 15 months, I was with him, being trafficked all over the western region of North America. And then I had 2 times where I lost faith once where I lost faith in him, and a second when I lost faith in humanity. And I realized I had to do it on my own. No one was going to save me. I had to rise. And I ended up confiding in a sex worker who then helped me get out. And her and I ended up building a really large escort service and did extraordinarily well for the next 3 years. Like, I was bankrolling. And I found a lot of power and strength. Like, I finally had ownership of my body. And then when you have money, it's amazing how many problems you can solve. The things you can do, because when it's flowing hand over fist and you know how to make it, in slavery gives you one hell of a work ethic. You just roll. And then I was pregnant, and I went through drug withdrawals and morning sickness. I gained 190 pounds with that pregnancy. Like, I switched addictions from drugs to food. And that's actually one of the core things that we help people do, is actually trade addictions. Let's just make better choices. And it's really easy when you look at it that way. When you're going for just straight behavior modification, like, don't eat a whole box of Twinkies, eat 3, eat 5, have chocolate for breakfast.
Right.
Like, make better choices. That's why I had chocolate covered caramels for breakfast. Like, that's what I want. I had 1, wanted 5.
Like, it's literally okay to not make yourself feel like shit the next day.
Right.
I may look like I'm hungover right now, but in actuality, I have a bed that's not treating me very well. So if my eyes look weird right now, it's because I didn't get a good night's sleep. I woke up with a splitting headache because the pillow is so hard. So
he's having a rough one.
I'm having a rough one. So, but yeah.
Yeah. So where was I?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right. I was trying to do it in 30 seconds and I totally failed, but I did condense about 20 years worth of trauma into 5 minutes.
That's really impressive.
Yeah. So, my breaking point.
Your breaking point. That's the point of the story.
Right. I was like 21 years old, because you have to understand why I got to this point at 21 years old.
Yeah.
I'm at 21 years old. And I'm working for an insurance company. I'm cold calling. And I was selling long-term care and annuities. So I'm cold calling seniors. And like, I generally just hate myself, and I hate the world, and I hate everybody around me. And I hated life. I was bitter, angry, and spiteful. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. All the negative things, it just poured from my being because I hated fucking everyone. Yeah. And I realized after calling seniors all day for months that when you're like 70, it's exactly who you are now, just magnified by like 100. You're either really super cool and you're like totally badass and you tell the coolest fucking stories and you just want to sit on the phone with them forever, or they are the most angry, bitter assholes that you just have to hang up on, because that's how old people are. They don't give a shit anymore. And that's why I, at 40, have put myself in the body of a 70-year-old, because you know what? I don't want to give a shit now. And I'm going to be that now, because what's inside of me is joy. And it's because that day, I remember it so clearly, like black slacks, black and gray sweater, climbed under my desk. I'm like 280, 290 pounds, curled up in the fetal position, snot bubble crying. And I'm like, I can't live this way. And I made a decision that day under my desk that I was going to choose happiness. Happiness was going to be my North Star. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I didn't know where, like, it felt unachievable, but I knew it was a real emotion and I wanted it. Yeah. And so that day I went on this quest to find happiness. And I think that's where so many of us get stuck and lost, is that we just don't have a North Star. If you don't have a goal as to where you're going and who you want to be and how you want to feel, it's like, where you're going, you're just like lost in the muck, looking around, just going, where, this is shitty. Everything I've ever experienced is shitty. And so when I put my eyes forward and started marching towards a goal, it didn't happen overnight. I mean, and now I shortcut it. I take decades off for people because I learned a lot of things along the way.
Right.
But I learned how to find better days. Mm-hmm. And then my better days outnumbered my bad days. And then I had more and more better days where it's like the bad days you could hardly even remember. And then all the shit fell apart. We got better. I'm shortening everything. Yeah. We ended up getting married.
I feel where you're going with it.
Yeah, you're feeling it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like we did all of this internal work. We tried everything. We did everything. We've always mentored, coached, helped people. We've been doing it since we were little. And, oh man, I wanted to tell my Chucky story.
Yeah, you should tell your story.
Because it was the next epiphany that actually happened before I wanted joy.
So you're going to flashback.
Yeah, I'm going to flashback because this was so powerful. I was partying hard. We were in the sex industry and like, we just had big parties. Like I had the party house and it was always controlled. I don't take any shit from anyone. Like my time in the gangs taught me to square up and like throw down. No one is messing with me. And so I'd have these house parties, but they'd always be really cool.
I always pictured you having like it being like a bar and Jess just kicks you out of her house.
Right. Yeah, that's like, kind of what it was.
No fights. You start fighting and kicking you out. You're not happy, you're gone.
Like, just no bullshit. But I had a few friends that I was really close with, and one of them had been in Desert Storm. And I was really open. Like, I didn't have the same words that I use now because language evolves. But like, I was pretty open about being like a hoe and shit like that. Like, you know, I'm a sex worker too. So at the time, like, you're pretty open about everything. Well, we had been out partying all night and it was like 4:00 in the morning. And it's just him and I, and he was my best friend's boyfriend. And we were just sitting in the car talking and he opened up. Okay, now keep in mind, I am like 18 years old. And like, I already had a really good feeling. The sex industry gives you the great underbelly of people tell sex workers shit that they don't tell anyone else. So you get to see the real hearts and minds of people, right?
Yeah. I see it like you sense shit that other people don't have the privilege, literally the privilege of sensing, because my God, some of the things that she just knows are going to happen, or the kind of things you've prevented where nobody can see it, but you know it's there.
I kind of have a weird brain too. I'm a little quirky. and
a lot quirky. And
yeah,